Hello everyone, here is our new lesson which is gender. It's gonna be in chapter 10, section 1. So let's start. In the 19th century, the division of labor between the American men and women was clearly defined. Simply, the men worked hard to support their families while women restricted their activities at home. But during World War II, something changed because most of the men were busy or they were in the army. So the women had their chance to enter the working field. But they faced the problem. The business owners, for example, how to deal with women. They had no idea and they had no experience how to deal with women in the working field. So in 1943, there was a list of rules for hiring women. Like, for example, every female should get adequate number of rest periods. So, and the business owners should give them some allowances for some kind of feminine therapy or feminine psychology. So, according to the gender roles, they had to face these problems. So, first of all, let's define gender. What's gender? In what ways do men and women differ? You might say biological characteristics. Yes, they differ in a list of physical traits like the average height and weight, the amount of body hair, and the muscle to fat ratio. But according to sociology, gender is the behavior and psychological traits considered appropriate for men and women. The variety of the biological characteristics is the same in all societies, but on the other hand, gender roles are socially created and may vary from culture to another. So we can say that it's gender, not biology, that determines the majority of the roles of men and women play in the society. In most of the societies, men and women do specific kinds of work in a division of labor based on gender. Women are mainly concerned with the child care and domestic duties, while men are concerned with the economic support and the physical safety for the family, of course. There was a sociologist, her name was Margaret Mead. She studied three different cultures from across the world. Some of them were in Asia, while the others were in Africa. The result of her study demonstrates. First, let me tell you the three societies that she examined. The first one, the women were bossy and efficient, while men tend to practice a lot of gossip and they had a lot of artistic skills. So, as you notice, different roles. In the second society that she examined, both of the males and the females are sharing the same roles, while on the third one, like the most of our societies, men are responsible for the economic support and women are responsible for the child care and most of the domestic duties. So, through this study, we can say that gender roles are socially created, not biologically created. The newborn babies is usually given a sex-specified clothes and toys in order to raise their awareness for being males or females. And this is called, guys, gender identity. Gender identity will be the awareness of being masculine or feminine as defined by the society. The gender roles are both different and unequal. In most of the societies, gender is the primary factor used to determine a person's social standing. Like in most of our societies here in the Middle East, of course, men have a superior social standing than women. So the sociologists will ask, why is this? And even over there, by the way, in the States. Let's go back to the second, I think. The first, yes, I think in the second term we had already discussed the lesson about the different kinds of societies, the pre-industrial, industrial, and the post-industrial one. So in the pre-industrial societies or in the primitive societies, they depended on birth and the survival of the children. So in order to take care of these two factors, women had spent many years in pregnancy and nursing, feeding their children, and so on. So they had to stay at home, while men are responsible for their food supply. So they went to, like we had already said, in hunters and gatherers, they went to hunt and they went to trade or even to defend their tribe. So they were hunters, traders, or warriors. So they had to travel away from home while women have to stay at home. So the prestige of these roles provided men with a source of power and dominance over women. Even in the industrial societies, the families are small, so the women are free. So they want to take some share of the dominance the males will get. But because of the dominance of the males in the economical and the political field, they block their access to this dominance. So we can say that patriarchy is a system in which men are dominant over women. The conflict perspective suggests that male control of the economic and the political spheres have reinforced their dominant position, and it devolves to become an institutionalized discrimination, and by turn it becomes a sexism, which is a belief that one sex is by nature superior to the other, and it's the default. Sexism becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Maybe you notice if you have a sister at home, so you have the right or you are free to go out at any time. Of course, if you do not have some kind of study, you are free to go out with your friends, come late at night. Of course, you're gonna face your punishment from your parents and so on. But of course, your sister simply can't. So let's go on. Less than 150 years ago, women in the States were the second-class citizens. They had few rights. Many jobs were close to them, and even women who did work were paid less than men. And also, after marriage, their possessions become their husband's property. Of course, all of these factors led to the American woman movement. Officially, it began in 1848, and their main goal was simply the suffrage or the right to vote. Before that time, they had no right to vote, by the way, but the government granted them the right to vote, and they demanded more rights. Successes are socially, politically, and economically equal. This is simply their demand. Of course, they had got some of them, but as you're gonna see later, in the education, in the work field, and even in politics, they didn't achieve their goal. So let's start by education. Starting from 1979, more women than men were in college registered over there in the States. Women will focus on their education on humanities and the educational field, while men focus on the engineering and the professions. طيب, on the other hand, after this education, where are them in the working force? Simply, they are not there. Even if they had the chance to enter the working field, starting from 1960, as we had already mentioned at the beginning of the lesson, they had entered the working field. But until now, until this day, they are facing a wage gap. A wage gap, it's the level of the woman's income relative to that of men. According to the states, by the way, the female workers earned half of the earnings relative to that of men. Nowadays, it's only 77%. Let me give you an example. If a man and a woman, both of them are working in the same job, in the same company, or in the same facility, if the man will simply earn $1, the female will get 77 cents. And this is nowadays. They used to think that there is some kind of a glass ceiling. The glass ceiling, it's the invisible barrier that prevents women from gaining upper level positions or managerial positions. But I think sociologists nowadays think that this ceiling is in the beginning, is at the beginning to have some kind of a crack. There is a problem, guys, and this problem will go to any working lady. Most of the women had some kind of a second shift. The working mother does at home. It's the work the working mother does at home. Married women who work face a particular kind of gender inequality. After their day at work, they have also household duties like cooking, cleaning, childcare. Even where husbands share in the second shift, they will make a lot of troubles and a lot of problems. But the wives still do some work. Even in politics, women make up 52% of voting age people, but only between 16 and 24% of elected offices. Or we can say women are more likely than men to vote in the elections. But unfortunately, the men control the political arena, not the females. So we're gonna stop at this point, يا ولاد, and inshallah